Welcome to day 27, Master Storytelling, the power of a unified voice. The Retail Solve Blueprint to teach you everything you need to know to confidently grow and scale your brand. Build a connected community of evangelists and multiply your brand's impact, sales, and profits. If we're meeting for the first time, my name is Dan Lohman. I've had the privilege of mentoring and working with hundreds of brands from pre-revenue to multi-billion dollars in sales. This is a culmination of the best strategies that are working today. I spent years testing and perfecting them to save you valuable time and money while giving you the edge that you deserve. If you haven't done so yet, download the free 30-day guide to prosperity workbook at retailsolve.com/30-day workbook to help you get the most out of this brand building series. And go back and listen to all the episodes in this masterclass so that you don't miss a thing. The strategies build upon each other in the order of the series. Please share these and help me raise the bar natural. I want to take a moment to recap the last episode, how to develop performance indicators to maximize results, KPIs. In that episode, we talked about how KPIs are the guardrails. That's what you use to keep everyone on track. For example, if you want everyone to merchandise your product a certain way at retail, you use a KPI to communicate that to all the salespeople, your brokers, anyone who touches the product. If you want your product merchandised next to a certain brand, you use a KPI to communicate that. KPIs are a great tool because they help keep everyone focused in lockstep on what the objective is, or on how you want things to appear at retail. Remember, one of the biggest challenges that brands face is the inconsistency in the way their brand is represented at retail. If I'm a customer and I go to a store and I can't find your product in the same place at every single store, and I might leave, or I might get disappointed, or I might get frustrated. You don't want that. Make it easier for customers to find and buy your products wherever they shop. Make it easier for retailers to sell your products and to delight the customers. Your customers are coming to find your products. And that leads nicely to today's topic, Master Storytelling, the power of a unified voice. This is one of my favorite topics. That's because this is where you can make the biggest impact. Your ability to communicate the value of your brand is critical to your success. Notice, I didn't mention how well is your brand selling or how it's ranked in the category. These are measures overlook what matters most, the value of your brand offers. Let's take a moment to talk about value. I love this illustration. Consider this. If I eat the cheap generic bread, I'm hungry almost before I finish eating it. If I eat the best mainstream bread, then I may be satiated about 3 or 4 hours. But if I eat the organic bread, even though it's 40 or 50 cents more at shelf, and that organic bread gives my body the nutrients that it needs, well then I may be satiated even longer. The point here is this. Even though I pay more for the bread, if I'm satiated longer, I eat less of the bread. Therefore, the value of the bread, what I'm getting for my money, is greater because I eat less of it. When I talk about value, think about the value of your brand. In this example, I eat less bread. My body needs less bread. Therefore, it gives me what I need, and I end up spending less in the long run. In addition to that, I also feel better about the environment and all that other stuff. We'll talk about that more later. But the point is, value versus cost, value versus price. Now, would you agree that the organic bread is of better value when you consider how it nourishes your body despite the additional cost? I want to challenge you to think about how your brand provides more value than the other brands you compete with. It doesn't take a lot of creativity to compete on price, and the harsh reality is that you'll most likely lose that fight every time. Let's change the way the game's played and focus on what your customers want, real value for their hard-earned money. Helping them get what they want is also helping your retail partners get what they want. This is why I spend so much time talking about the market basket. It all starts with your brand story. If I tell you a story and you share the story with someone else and they share it with someone else and so on, by the time it comes back around to me, it's going to be unrecognizable. Stop and think about this for a moment. How does this impact your selling story or your messaging across all your retail customers and beyond? When I worked for big brands, we relied exclusively on paper presentations. The brand team would send us new item presentations that we were expected to share with retail on every appointment. That rarely happened. I used to call in the largest retailer in the country at the time, before Walmart became the largest. My responsibilities included corporate headquarter calls as well as different divisions. Each sales rep chose different slides to include in the presentation depending on their style and what was important to them. There was no uniformity or consistency between sales calls. Now imagine how your brand is being presented at each individual retailer. It's no wonder why there's so much confusion, so many fires to be put out, and so many deductions. By the way, deductions are an indication that something did not get communicated properly. Retail sales calls have become more transactional at best. Let's put a change to that. That's why I spend so much time talking about using each and every retailer facing opportunity as an opportunity to educate the retailer about something they don't have access to on their own or from your competition. A big reason for this is the inefficiency of storytelling. You have an opportunity here to differentiate yourself from other brands. Let's face it, big brands talk at us, not to us. We're great, buy us because we're great. Natural brands are more closely aligned with our core customers. That's why so many of the strategies throughout this 30 Days of Prosperity Challenge are focused on building a thriving community outside of traditional retail. This is exactly why I created the free turnkey sales story strategies course. This will give you a solid foundation to build your brand on, and more importantly, these are the simple strategies that most brands don't have the discipline to execute. If you want to rise above other brands, you need to use strategies that this course teaches. I have to admit, I made a huge mistake making this course free. The content is amazing, and I'm really proud of it. Making it free, however, reduced the incentive for people to complete it. I had planned to charge $2,000, but I decided to make it free as my way of giving back. This industry's been good to me, and this is in keeping with my mission to help you get your brand onto more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers, including online. Take this course seriously. Overachievers will take this course with your entire management team in unison. You can learn more about the course at retailsolve.com/grow sales. I spend a lot of time talking about the importance of a unified voice. I've illustrated a little bit about why this matters. I hope this makes sense to you. It's critically important to the success of your brand that everyone is talking about your brand and communicating the value of your brand with the same passion and enthusiasm as the founder. If you can do that effectively across every contact point, every customer point, every retailer selling point, then you have a leg up against your competition. This is so critically important to your success. And the best part about it is, this is the Achilles heel of most every brand. Literally every brand, and especially the big brands. They spend so much time talking at us, so much time going through the motions, that they don't think about what matters most. Listening to the customer. I've shared a lot of podcast episodes and a lot of resources throughout this entire series that highlight stories about founders who listened to their core customers and developed products that they wanted. And by doing that, created unique brands that became icons in the category. Go back and listen to several of these episodes. For additional inspiration, listen to podcast episode Secrets 29, Turnkey Sales Story Strategies. This is the podcast episode where I originally announced the course, the free course we're talking about. You can learn a little bit about the course here. Let me give you a little bit more context. In this course, I give you the foundational things that you need to know about as you're putting together your brand. But what's important here is that even if you've launched your brand, these are the things you should go back and listen to, because I'll bet these are things that you're not doing effectively. I'll bet these are things that you're probably not doing on a regular basis. At the beginning of every football season, Vince Lombardi, one of the winningest coaches in football, would hold up a football in a room full of a bunch of pro athletes and say, "Gentlemen, this is a football." The point being is that he talked about the basics. He talked about reinforcing the basics. I love that analogy because it's so critically important that we always go back to the basics. We get so busy in our lives that we forget about what's important. We forget about the foundational things that brought us here. We forget about the foundational things that we all need to pay attention to be successful. Secrets 29, Turnkey Sales Story Strategies. And next, listen to Secrets 87 with Peter Burns, with One Brands, Justin's, and Hanes Celestial. Why it's critical to build your brand with a sturdy foundation. In this episode, Peter talks about how he spent a lot of time building a lot of different brands. And the way that he did that is he focused on the brand story. He focused on building a solid foundation to build his brand. And by doing that, he built several iconic brands. In fact, The story about Justin specifically, that's a testimony to how effective he was in terms about building a story about the brand, about building a solid foundation. And of course, as you know, Hain Celestial is one of the largest brands in the natural channel. Secrets 87, Peter Burns, with One Brands and Justin's and Hain Celestial. Why it's critical to build your brand with a solid foundation. And next, listen to Secrets 124, Phil Limpert, the supermarket guru. Your success as a brand begins with a farmer, celebrating real food. Phil's a good friend, and we had a great conversation talking about the origin of food. A lot of people don't realize where your food comes from. The point here is this: as you're talking about or developing a brand story, talk about the origin of your food. Talk about where it came from, the love and the care that it took to get it into your product. Talk about how you took the extra time to put it in the right package, how you took the time to make sure that it had the right ingredients and you didn't cut any corners. Talk about why that food's important and why it is unique, different than any other brands. Phil does a great job on this podcast about talking about the importance of real food. You want to go back and listen to it. Secrets 124, Phil Limpert, the supermarket guru. Your success as a brand begins with the farmer, celebrating real food. And next, go listen to Secrets 139, Susie York with Love Good Fats, Explosive Growth, the result of a solid brand position. In this episode, Susie spends a lot of time talking about how she built a solid brand position for her brand, and as a result, they had a solid, clear strategy to get on retailer shelves. This episode is a masterclass in brand positioning. This is one of my favorite episodes because Susie is a master at brand building. This is an episode that I highly recommend you listen to. In fact, this episode alone is going to give you a sustainable competitive edge. Secrets 139, Susie York, with Love Good Fats, Explosive Growth, the result of a solid brand position. And next, listen to Secrets 105. Brands need to have a clear and compelling message that resonates with shoppers. Nothing's more important to a brand than a customer. Your brand story needs to resonate with shoppers just as much as the ingredients beyond the retailer shelf. Brands who can personalize their messaging have the potential of going viral. Secrets 105, brands need to have a clear and compelling message that resonates with shoppers. Tip of the day: storytelling is the most effective way to communicate. The power of a good storyteller cannot be underestimated. Your brand success relies on how effective your storytelling is. I recorded the video, which has illustrations and additional information that I can't share on the audio podcast. You can watch the accompanying video on the podcast webpage, and you can get there by going to retailsolve.com/session 253. In tomorrow's show, we'll talk about how to create a sustainable advantage for your business. Know your competitors' strategies. This episode will build on today's conversation. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next show.